I want to thank the fan turnout. We had great turnout and great support, and we're appreciative of that. We don't take that for granted. I want to thank the Chick-fil-A and the Peach Bowl. We had a great experience and were treated in a first-class manner. Specifically to the game, just too many moving parts with the staff and with the players against a good team. Too many moving parts, staff and players, to have the type of success that we wanted to have today. I won't get into all the details. I thought the officiating was less than desirable. That first drive, we have the field goal. We run a slant, we get turned around. But I'll move on. I could list out a number of examples, but that's a big play in that game at a critical moment, starting out with a touchdown rather than a field goal. Is significant, but I'll move on. Lack of turnovers. Again, we had two plays backed up in their area of the field that went to replay, but those two turnovers would have been huge in the game. I'm not even saying that they were judged right or wrong. I didn't get a chance to see it, but they were huge plays in the game, and then we had a turnover. We've done a great job of creating turnovers on defense and eliminating turnovers on offense, and we didn't win the turnover battle today, which is been a huge part of our success all year long. A couple other things I would say is, getting off the field on third and fourth down on defense, and being able to convert and stay on the field on offense. We've been great all year long in the third quarter. Starting the third quarter with 2 3-and-outs on offense when the game was still very, very competitive at that point. That was significant. So you got to give Ole Miss credit, got to give Lane and his staff credit. But I think ultimately too many moving parts, staff and players, to have the type of success that we want to have.
All right, we'll take questions. Raise your hand, please. We'll get you a wireless microphone. We'll start right here in the front row on the left, please.
James, the decision on 4th and 1 to punt, what went into that one?
Yeah, we were backed up on our end of the field. Felt like we needed to obviously punt the ball, pin them deep, and make them go the length of the field. We had not been moving the ball the way we needed to offensively. They had been moving the ball, so felt like I needed to give our defense the best chance. Obviously, that was a big story in the game, them going for it on 4th down and having success. We did go for it on 4th down and scored a touchdown, but we did not go for it in that situation.
All right, next, all the way in the back on the right.
Hey, Coach Franklin. From the first half to the second half, obviously the first half, you going with a 3-point deficit, looked competitive. The second half, Ole Miss extended their lead. What was the biggest difference that allowed Ole Miss to extend their lead from the first half to the second half?
A couple things. We had obviously the ability to move the ball in the first half, not as consistently and not as explosive as we'd like to be, but in the third quarter, again, starting out with 2 3-and-outs. We had some injuries. We had some guys that had limited roles in the second half compared to the first half. All those things factored into it.
Right here, front row on the left.
James, was Dante Cephas available to play today? And if he was, what went into him not seeing the field?
Yeah, everything's an open competition every week, and the depth chart reflects that. And then obviously when you're in a bowl situation and you got 3 weeks, there's a lot of movement that can occur in 3 weeks. And part of that obviously is also having Trey Harrison back that we had not had for about 5 weeks this year.
All right, next over here on the right.
James, kind of going off of that, how would you evaluate the end-to-end development and progression of your receiver room, and what would you say sort of led to it never really getting to where you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I actually thought during the bowl period that those guys had a really good bowl period. I thought that was a big part that we were excited about and we made a big deal about with the team. it's a combination of things. I think, we're really good at tight end. That's part of it. And then we got to be able to make sure that we translate what we do in practice consistently to the games. And I think one of the things that I think can be challenging is you may not get an opportunity early in the game, but whenever those opportunities come, you got to maximize them. You got to maximize them, and we have not done that consistently enough this year.
Next over here, halfway on the left.
Hi, for KJ and Tyler, you guys have talked at times this season about how you've stuck together through adversity. This is another piece of adversity for you guys here at the end of the season. Coach talked about the transition upcoming. Why is this a group that sticks together, and why do you think that this has been kind of the mark of this season?
Yeah, I'll start off. I just think, we go back to what we all been through together, all the hard work we put in together, in the off season, when the workouts, summer workouts. So we reflect on those kind of things and realize that, we get this time, we get limited times, 12 games and 12, 13 games to play with each other. And we make sure we stay together through it all. We'll never, break up on each other. And that's the main thing, staying together through it all. Because when we were, struggling in the workouts, that was the time we had to stay together. So we'll never, never let that break in the middle of a game.
Yeah, I'd agree with KJ on that, and then it kind of just starts with our coaching staff and the culture day and distilling us, and then as older guys on the team, making sure we keep that going through the highs and the lows. So just doing that's important.
All right, next here, front row on the right.
James, the pace that they play with, the tempo, how challenging was that with some of the moving parts? And KJ, what was it like playing in a team that goes that fast?
Yeah, so the tempo is challenging early on in the game where we were able to get negative plays, takes them out of their rhythm. But obviously when they're able to play with tempo and have positive plays and build on it, it is difficult to stop. That also goes into how the game is managed is also important. When the ball goes out on their sideline, that is a substitution. And we have the ability to match substitution. And those couple times where we're trying to be able to substitute right there to affect their tempo and also to match personnel, we weren't given the opportunity to do that a few times. So tempo is challenging all the time, but you also need to make sure it's being managed correctly and consistently so we know when we can sub and can't.
Yeah, and I agree with Coach Franklin on that one. And I think the main thing for me, and a lot of guys that say the same, is getting to play and make sure everybody's on the same page. Because when they're doing hurry up, a lot of guys are just getting up from making a tackle or getting up from doing whatever they were doing on the play. And our main thing, we always want to have our cleats set and be on the same page. And sometimes hurry up, causes disruption with that. And that's the main thing that causes difficulty with that.
All right, next here, front row on the right.
James, you mentioned the moving parts. How do you think it affected you, like emotionally, energy-wise? Can you comment on your team from that perspective?
Yeah, I didn't feel like that was an issue from an energy and a focus standpoint. You guys can speak on that, but I don't think that was an issue. But we had significant players that have played all year long that weren't in that game. And I don't want this to come off the wrong way. I'm not criticizing, but it is what it is. It's the reality. And I think about guys that did play in the game and how appreciative we are, but not only appreciative, there's an opportunity to create value by playing in games as well. Talking to some people, our guys playing against Ole Miss and playing well is also an opportunity. And these things, obviously we need to have some discussions as a team and how we're going to handle these things moving forward. But it was different. You look at last year's game and this year's game, it was different. And we need to have some healthy discussions about that as a staff and as a team and how we want to operate moving forward.
All right, we've got time for a few more. We'll go next all the way in the back on the left.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned those 2 turnovers that were overturned on replay. You guys were disruptive early in this game defensively and seemed to do what you wanted to do defensively really early in this game. What was the adjustment that Ole Miss made that gave you guys trouble kind of there midway through the first quarter in the first half?
Yeah, again, I think a couple things that I've mentioned already. I think, obviously early on we were able to get some negative plays, whether tackles for loss, whether it's 0 gain plays, whether it was sacks. Those things, when you're able to keep a team off schedule and not go tempo, those are powerful. Those are powerful. And then I think also, obviously, our offense being able to answer, some of those scoring situations and keep the game within a score, within a field goal, is significant. But again, we had some guys in the second half that weren't available. And I think they did a good job. If you watch their game plan, they went after some guys that had not played a ton of football for us this year. And it'll be a great learning opportunity for those guys and for us moving forward.
All right, time for a couple more. Let's go on the aisle on the right side here.
Coach, in the second half, specifically the third quarter, anything specific Ole Miss did on defense? I know you were able to score any points. Just curious about the Ole Miss defense in the third quarter.
Yeah. Obviously, I think they made some adjustments, but overall, we weren't able to stay on schedule. You don't want to be in third and long situations. So whether it was a drop or an incomplete or whether it was a rush of no gain, you get off schedule against a good team with that type of defensive line. I think their length at the defensive tackle, they were able to bat down a few balls, which those may not be sexy plays, but they're significant. That was probably the biggest thing. We weren't able to stay on schedule on third down.
All right, we're going to take two more back here on the right side.
Yeah, KJ and Tyler, I wanted to ask you, you've obviously had great New Year's Six Bowl experiences, being at destinations, that type of thing. Can you take us to next year when it's an actual playoff game and the result means you continue or you don't continue, how that may adjust or how it may feel differently starting next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really not a huge change because, I mean, we're coming into every game expecting to play our best game and trying to win in the best way we can. So I don't think it's going to change a lot. Obviously, it's a different platform, but really the way we approach it and the way, we attack it as a team is going to be the same every game we play in.
Yeah, like Tyler Warren said, every game, no matter whether it's a playoff game or if it's just a regular season game, we're coming in the same way with the same approach, no matter what. So I feel like, it'd be nothing new to us. It'd just be, the label of the game would be bigger, but for us, we're taking it the same as we always do.
All right, final question right here left.
James, we've seen Drew struggle a little bit in these bigger games that he's had this year. What have you seen from him? In Michigan, Ohio State today, it seems like he got the consistency late. But what has kind of prevented him from finding that rhythm for a full 4 quarters, 60 minutes?
Yeah, I think it's all of it, right? We gotta stay on schedule, like we talked about. We got to make plays for him when we have the opportunity to make plays for him. I think there's some things that he can do and be more consistent as well. But I think the biggest thing, which I think was a question earlier, is we got to be able to scare people and be a threat consistently on the perimeter. And that's something I think we've shown flashes of at times, but we need to be able to do that on a consistent basis. So it's a little bit of Drew. I think it's a little bit of the offensive line. I think it's a little bit of the coaches. I think it's a little bit of the wide receivers. It's a piece of all of it. We got to make some plays for him, and he's got to make some plays as well.
All right, that'll do it. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.